Welcome to Brocks and Macks. Like and subscribe if you like what you see. Check out my other videos. Today is the big question of probably the past 50 years. What is the difference between a Mack cab and a 700 series Brockway cab? Got an R model here on the left, a 761 on the right. So let's just get into this now. Scheller Globe was the manufacturer for Brockway and Mack. They have very unique similarities. The shell overall by the eye looks close. I'm not going to get into this is the non-+3 or the flat back cab compared to the +3 fat man's cab. That is a +3. This one is not. But just to give you the idea, this from about the rocker all the way up to the back of the cab, and then the roof line is the same into the windshield here. It's when the firewall starts from here down. That's where the hood cowl is completely different than a Mack. So all you guys that comment, oh, that's a Mack cab, that's a Mack. Well, yeah, it's similar, but you could see like the Mack, the R model hood is here. It doesn't have this square. It's more like a Superliner cab look. So that's the similarities with Brockway. Brockway also the roof vent is in a different spot because Brockway did not develop the upper headliner dash, I guess, for the radio. And then what else is in there? I think there's a delete right there, but anyway, you'll understand what I mean. But the roof vent for the Mack is right here. Those are really the only similarities going on. See, very similar. Here's where the 761 hood lays, and this is where the R model hood lands on this Mack cab cowl. Same thing, you have this, and then this is the fat man's cab, or +3 cab, and then the roof line is the same, all the way down the windshield to about here, those seams. Then you have the upper headliner dash, and then the vent in the front, instead of where Brockway is always put right here. I hope this gave somebody who didn't know a little bit of an education between the similarities between Brockway 700 series cabs and the Mack R model cab. Very, very close. Mack also has their own Donaldson style air cleaner, which again interferes with how Brockway laid it out. I'll show you on the 761. This has a mild indent right here for the clearance with this air cleaner. And then you have this that's completely different for the hood tie down. And then you have the firewall vent that Brockway does not have, because Brockway, almost all of them had the butterfly hood, so it was always flush all the way across. See this here, there's more of a, instead of there being a 1-inch indent for Mack, this is about a 3.5 to 4, all the way up to fit what Brockway style was, which was a Farr or a Donaldson. Same thing with the cowl. The cowl is sharper. This 700 series is more like a Superliner hood could fit on this, but it's not close. The lines do not match when you set a hood from a Superliner down on a Brockway cab, or vice versa. If you have a Brockway fiberglass tilt nose, like one of my videos is, if I was to take that cab off that 761 and put a Superliner cab on it and then try to match the hood to the cab, the curvature just won't line up perfectly. There's just a little bit of a difference that by eye it's off. I don't know if you can quite see it, but this is a hard mount cab mount for Brockway. Brockway did not use an air ride cab, where Mack was figuring the stuff out. They have their own little pivot trunnion. Some of them were air ride, some of them were hard mount, but when they transitioned, see, this is a hard mount style, this is a 1980 R model, but when the air ride cabs came out, all they had to do was alter this mount to put 2 airbags in the back, and you instantly had an air ride cab because of the way this pivots back and forth. Now, there are some exceptions to what the R model and 700 series cab is. Again, because they are so similar, you can use the roof. If you had some rust repair, you can use the drip rail up high here, the cab corners, the back window action. This particular project, this is a 761, and it actually had the flat back non-+3 cab originally, but the cab corners, the rockers, around the window, there was some roof holes. So what I ended up doing is this part here, from here all the way up, around and down, that was a Mack DM cab, which is very close to an R model, same structure, same everything. But for what I needed, I utilized the original firewall to this truck. And this particular cab, this Brockway cab, for some reason, even though all of this rot was here, there was a good floor. So I chopped it right here at the rocker seam here. And then instead of going here, my cut is right underneath the visor. But you can hardly tell that this is a Mack style cab. I made my own rocker and sill plates out of 1/8 inch steel. So all of this was good. And then I just had to make, being that this is a headliner from a Brockway non-+3 cab, and then I used the Mack roof and back of cab, so now the vent is in the front. But I didn't put this front headliner dash in like the R models have, so I just had to kind of retrofit to make this work. This center panel is original to Brockway. All I did was spin it around, because remember, the vent was back here for Brockway, and this is for Mack. I don't particularly mind it. I think when you open it up and go down the road, you have more air movement than where it was back here. I really don't understand why Brockway did that. So that is my introduction to showing the very, very quick similarities. They share the same doors. Actually, I skipped a step. They share the same doors, but this is R model latch. I like this cam over style latch compared to the early Mack or Brockways had. And this particular back of cab was from a mid to late 80s DM anyway, so all I had to do was change the mechanism inside the door to match that latch, and everything lines up perfectly. The door is closed perfectly. I didn't even take the doors off for this project. I just opened them up, chopped it off, what I wanted chopped off, took the back off, and then when I put everything back together, the back holes for the mounts lined up. It took me a couple days to do this, but it was not a difficult job. If you can just sit down, take a bunch of measurements, and do some fabrication, have some help, because you're going to need some wrestling around to get it right in place. But it worked out perfectly. I would do it again in a heartbeat. I hope this was helpful. Like and subscribe. Have a great weekend, everyone.